Jennifer Rubin and Ken Sagoes.
No, I had tooth surgery, so this is the best time for you all to say something and I don't cuss you out.
Well, that actually leads into my first question.
Oh,
So, I heard for your audition for Dream Warriors, the director was late and you were soaked because there was a storm outside, and that they finally got you in to go and do your audition, and they tell you to just do whatever you want for your audition. And your words to them were, F you. And that's what got you your role. What was your thought process during that?
No, but that's how rumors get started.
Okay, well then tell us the story.
I didn't want to be there at all. I had got 2 tickets. It was raining. I didn't have a car. I didn't know Jennifer at the time, so I couldn't borrow her car. And so when I got, the breakdown, they described the character that you looked like, and I didn't look like the character. They said a guy with a 28-inch waist, that was my thigh. What the fuck you calling me for? So when I got there, I had an attitude, and they thought I was acting. And when I was reading it, originally Kincaid was for a white actor. So when I had said that a black guy wouldn't say this, so he said, say it like a black guy would say it. That's when I cussed him out.
Does it still shock you to this day that you got your role because you were just you, and you went in there and you cussed him out anyways, and you were mad?
No, but I gotta say something. Fuck you. I have been wanting to see that in sign language for a long time.
I love sign language.
Oh,
Got it.
fuck you. I feel like Italian. Okay, I shut up, Jennifer. Go on, talk.
So Jennifer, in your scene with Freddie where he has the needle fingers and you go to stab Freddie with your prop knife during filming, and you actually stab Robert England with the prop knife. What was your feeling on that, and what was the day on set like for the rest of the day after that?
Well, on set, the thing is like I'm not professionally trained. I'm just lucky. And several times in my life when I'm being attacked by a guy, all of a sudden like it becomes like really real to me, because like we were fighting and stuff, and we did this stunt, choreography and everything, but at some point, he kind of overpowers me, and then just as like an Aries, I think, oh no, and then I'll stop you from me experiencing that feeling, and I just jabbed the knife into his armpit, and I caught him, and the scene went on and everything, but then after the scene, you said, oh, I got hurt. And so people, so they all rushed to him, not because he's the star, is because technically, no, if like somebody pulls my hair, I'm supposed to act like, oh, but the thing is like, just not that I'm unprofessional, but I'm emotional and unschooled. So, he tried to overtake me and I stabbed him, and it's just there's another movie I did where this one guy was trying to kill me and I had a gun, and they always say shoot low, and then it's just like, but I'm from Arizona, so it's just like we aim for the head. And so I shot his face off, and then and I guess the gunpowder goes on his face. And he took a walk for a long time. They're like, "Oh, you shot him in the face." And I was like, well, that's what you get when you try to rape me.
That's acting.
That's acting.
So,
You know.
this film had an overall decent budget and CGI was available, but everything was done with practical effects. How was that experience on set for you guys with the practical effects? And side note, did you guys take time and play around with the Freddy worm at any point in time when it was there?
You mean the big snake that swallows a Patricia?
Yeah.
I didn't film that day, so I didn't see the snake when I think they was filming.
I remember though, but Chuck went in and he goes, "That looks like a gigantic penis. You can't do that." And then, so they had to like maybe switch the color or something. But as far as those classic effects go, I mean, there's nothing better than everybody being in the same room. And I remember when we were in the room, the padded cell where all the feathers come in.
Oh yeah, I could never get that shit straight.
Yeah, and the padded room was like, so he's gonna claw it, and then these chicken feathers are all gonna fill the air. But nobody really understood that when we're screaming, that we have to breathe in, and those chicken feathers are gonna be like, like this. But today maybe you couldn't do it, but man, it was fun then,
Yeah,
right?
It was confusing because we didn't know what to do. Because at that time, you see, there's several different razors. And they had to use the real razors to cut the thing. And then they had to come in with the fake razors. Did you know that? And so, I think that was because it was really scary. That was the only,
It was really scary because I breathed in feathers.
Yeah, it was the only day I shit in my clothes. But for me, to be in a film where there was special effects, so it helped me as an actor because you had to pretend that someone was there. So it was very helpful for me. It trained me as an actor to do physical comedy, physical acting, because it was Lawrence Fishburne that truly took me to the side and taught me how to do physical acting, because I was a fresh new actor on the block technically, and I didn't know what to do, so I was giving my all and all, because one of the first things that we did was that scene where we was all in that row in a circle.
Yeah.
And
Where you
so-
bend the chair.
Yeah. No. That was the one. But they took me out. They had to take me out.
Oh, right.
And so, did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Were either of you fans of the Nightmare movies before auditioning for Dream Warriors? I know, Ken, that you had done a lot of TV, and then Jennifer, you were doing modeling.
I had never seen. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
I had never seen or heard of a Nightmare on Elm Street.
I said, if it's good enough for Johnny Depp, it's good enough for me.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
So Ken, what was your experience like coming back to film Nightmare on Elm Street, Dream Masters, after being in Dream Warrior? Do you have any good stories from that or any great memories?
To come back
For 4, yeah.
Me and Rodden was in and out like at the
Wait. This is where you say you're the first black actor to
I was
survive.
getting to that. I had to leave.
He survived number 3. The first man to ever survive.
Yes, just so you know, I give homage to Wes Craven because I survived that movie.
There you go.
I'm the first African American to survive a major international horror film. Because in the 70s there was a black exploitation, and there was a movie called Blackula, and they did part 2. Technically, Blackula, he was dead, so that wasn't a living person. But I'm the first.
And I'm the millionth white woman to be raped on film.
But you did it so well.
That's what he said.
That's what not that late.
So Jennifer, what was it like working on The Crush compared to Dream Warriors, since both are like psychological villains? How would you compare the two?
Who's the psychological villain? Is Alicia?
Yeah.
Wow.
Changes your perspective a little bit.
Well, that's a really good question. Well, you know, all films are based on conflict, so you have to have two people who are cruel or conflicting or something. So it really doesn't matter. There's a video that just came out about the tragic life of Alicia Silverstone, and it's like 35 minutes long. It's on YouTube, and it's fantastic because she was underage and she was being emancipated and all sorts of things like that. I forgot the question.
What was
What
it?
was it like for her to
What was
be?
it compared to being on? You
For
know,
her
Nightmare
being
and
like
The
my
Crush?
thing?
Yeah.
I probably took it more personal that it was her, and I probably had more fan reaction. Like everybody loves that Freddie killed me, but like nobody likes that Alicia got one over on me. Like I have never met anybody who said, yeah, she should have got one over you. It's like you should have killed her. And you know, those are kind of, you know, I think Alicia now is taking her career in a trajectory where she might be for women's rights or something. And but every film that I still get, it's more like this man is gonna be attracted to you and then he's gonna kill you. So you want the part? And it's kind of like, not really. But so I think the times are kind of changing where, you know, if a girl beats me up, and now I have to say, Alicia beat up Uma Thurman too. So she can beat up Uma Thurman and she can beat me up. I don't care. You know, I like Uma and stuff like that. But I think, you know, I think now there's a time for the voice of women that is going to be new voices. Like, I mean, I don't want to brag, but I just wrote a script where I think I'm saying something different about a dark woman. And it's not just a dark woman that needs to be killed by a guy, but it's like, you know, maybe that, like if there's a dark mother and how her children are healthy despite the fact. Because good parents make bad children. And bad parents make good children. And Nightmare on Elm Street is about parents who didn't listen to their children. So I think it's always probably going to be a mother, father, child storyline that's going to be interesting to me personally. You know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah.
pretty heavy for but you know, I think it's just basically maybe we should not demonize our parents, but just kind of show that maybe some bad parenting makes good children, you know, no matter what. So I don't know.
All right. So, what's your relationship like with Heather Langenkamp, who plays Nancy? What's both of your guys' relationship with her like now?
I was so sad that I didn't get to have a private dinner with her in Texas. We were at a Comic-Con, and we always have dinner, we always have drinks, and we were just too busy, and I didn't get to see her. That's okay.
Heather Langenkamp in Nightmare 3, to me, was like a big sister. She was everybody's big sister. She's still everybody's big sister. And I have a nonprofit called Giving Back, where I send kids to camp during the summer, and I pay for kids' books when they go to college. And Heather, every year, supports me. Every year. I have to say that my Nightmare friends, whenever I call them for help, they're right there. You know, and so, but Heather to this day, she checks on us, at least checks on me. I don't see her, sometime it may be a year or 2 years. but when we see each other, it's like I just saw her yesterday. And so I'm not afraid to say I love that lady like a sister. So
A good mother.
So Ken, what got you inspired and got you started with your nonprofit?
Because when I was a child, growing up in Atlanta, Georgia, rough area, we was very poor. I grew up where I always said we were so poor, we only had one O in the word poor. So,
What'd you say?
we only had P-O-O-R, we only had one O. But in my senior year in high school, me and a couple of the kids in the community, we used to joke with this here elderly lady that used to go from door to door with a fruit jar, begging in the morning when we went off to school, and everybody would go begging, asking for money. And sometimes when we came back in the afternoon, she was still begging. She'd be blocks away, still begging. And we used to tease her, call her names and everything. But at the end of the day, the joke was on us. Because when I got ready to go to college, this lady knocked on the door and she gave me some money for books. And so she was not going door to door because she needed money. She was going door to door because she wanted to make sure that the children in the community who went off to college, we could at least buy our books. So because of that, and then during the summer, I used to watch so many buses drive away going to camp, but my parents' mother could not afford for me to go to camp. So I promised God that when I got to a certain age, or whatever I do in this business, I was always going to make sure that I sent somebody's child to the same camp every summer. And I would get for somebody's child books when they go to college. So this year, I just gave out 10 more scholarships. This year, I have put nearly 700 kids through college. That's what made it, and I always give homage to the horror community because a great deal of my funds come from you. So I am very grateful for the young lady joke with you, but I'm grateful because you all have helped me put kids through college. So thank you.
Well, that's very admirable. We need more people like you in the world that help out where.
Not like me because I'm broke.
Yeah, but you know what? You're broke for a good reason because 700 kids out there are getting education.
Yeah, that's right.
So you are dollar broke, but you are rich in your soul.
Yeah. Yay.
Tell my landlord, here's a check called this to your
Let me give you some of my soul. Let me drip it out. What's left of it?
But thank you so much.
So Jennifer, what was it like to meet with Bob Dylan and prep for your role in Oliver Stone's biopic called The Doors?
Fantastic. We were in a private barbecue, probably about 30 people in a backyard. And I thought, oh my God, and I had such spiritual connection to Edie Sedgwick. And when I got the role, I auditioned, I was the reader for Jim Morrison's, for Oliver Stone and The Doors, so I read 5 potential Jims. And at the end of that, Oliver said to me, do you want to be the stewardess on the plane or do you want to be Edie Sedgwick? And I said, oh, I want to be Edie Sedgwick. And then when I went home, there was a little dead bird on my windowsill. And she was like a little bird, you know. So I thought, oh, that was a good, okay thing to do. And then filming was fantastic. And Crispin Glover was, you know, Andy Warhol and stuff. But I was filming a movie with Robert Downey Jr. at the time, with his father directing and stuff. And Robert's father is a bit of a, well, he's a good man, but he's, what do you call those, like an upstart or kind of like Putney Swope, if anybody's familiar with it, is like a big fuck you to the man kind of guy. And so when I had like such a shooting schedule where I would shoot Roberts movie during the day, and then I would shoot Oliver Stone's movie during the night. I was really tired and stuff like that. But his father got so jealous of Oliver Stone that he wanted me to stay on his set, and then I couldn't get over to my other set. And then a big, huge legal battle happened between them just for no reason at all. And then, what was the question? My life's crazy, man.
Just like what it was like to meet Bob Dylan.
Oh, Bob Dylan. Okay, so anyway, so there I am at some barbecue with crazy people, like I'm like the only unfamous person there. And he was talking to Lauren Hutton, if anybody is a big fan of models and stuff like that. So I interrupted and I said, oh, I'm playing, he said to me, and you wrote a song about her pillbox hat and everything. Can you give me some advice on her? And then he said whatever he said to me, which I don't really remember. But he gave me his blessing, and I spoke to him, and you know how like young people think old people are old? It was kind of like that. And then Lauren Hutton gave me like these evil eyes because she was like, oh, you interrupted me, and I was talking to Bob Dylan, and I was like, well, whatever.
Ken, what was it like filming on the set of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia with that cast and crew?
It was fun. It was fun because, again, I have a tendency of getting roles that I don't know what this show is about. That's another story, because at the audition, I was doing this character, and I asked him, was this a pilot? So it had been on about 5 years then. I said, is this a pilot? And they just started laughing. And I would have a straight face, well, is this a pilot or what? And they said, he's hilarious. They just didn't want to believe. I didn't know what the So when I got home, they called me and told me I got the role. And it was a nice shoot, and they was going to bring me back. And, they said, we're going to bring you back. The guy actually called me and said, we're working on bringing you back. Are you available in 2 weeks? And I said, yes. And then they called and said they canceled the show.
Aww. Did you remember your lines?
That's what I said.
Yeah.
Aww.
Oh yeah, like aw. But could you remember your lines?
For what?
For that show you're just talking about.
Wait. There's some shit going on in here.
That's what I
Shit going on in here. And I literally forgot my line, but I just kept going, and they said, that's great.
That is the greatest thing about acting, is what I really realize now after the fact is that the more charisma and the more that you have and bravado, that's the stuff, some of the bloopers really are the things that make a movie. Yeah.
Speaking of, she completely pissed at me. About a few years ago, she came to me and said she was going to write her own short film.
Yeah.
She wrote it and then won, I don't know how many awards for it.
Oh yeah.
It's true.
It's true. But he's a real writer. I'm just lucky. I figured it out.
Call it whatever you want. She wrote something, won an award. Call it whatever you want.
Yeah, it's true. But now you're right. I will give it to you.
I feel
you were right. I was wrong.
Right.
I am a writer.
Are we taping this? Because she said something that she never said.
I never admit to being wrong.
I believe if you can write a sentence, so don't come and ask me, I want to be a writer. Write a sentence, you're right.
You're right.
All right, you guys, let's open it up to some questions from your fans. Anybody have any questions? Go ahead right here.
Do you think if you guys had a Avengers-style fight where, like, how Kristen could bring everyone into the dream, like, if it wasn't him getting you individually, do you think you guys would have been able to take down Freddy as a team?
Such a good question. I'd be in there stabbing his eyeballs out. What would you do? Bend his legs?
Oh, all I would say is that another check. You gotta look at the check. There was a part 6 where we all were brought back.
Oh,
We were called the Dream Patrol.
Dream Patrol?
Yeah, the Dream Patrol. I actually read that script. So, there was rumors, I do not know how true it is, but there was rumors. The reason I said I see you in hell when you tell me is because they were considering bringing Kincaid back to fight Freddy. You know, that's one. I didn't hear from nobody that could make it happen. I heard from down here with the ideas. But I think it was, as a writer, if I was writing it, I'd still be in a wheelchair trying to keep Freddy.
Yeah, the thing about Freddie is he gets you alone, right? When you're most vulnerable and you don't have any protection around you, bastard.
All the way in the back?
Hi, I just want to say, first of all, it's awesome to live here. And this question is, I guess, more for you, Jennifer. So I am a huge fan of that film Delusion that you did in the early 90s. And that was kind of like a time when, like, a lot of different films on TV that were sort of beginning about. And I was wondering, like, what you thought about the finished film and if you have any memories from making it, because it was just such a cool little.
He's talking about this film I did that film Delusion started Cineville, which went on to make other really good independent films, and that's when we're going from film into video, and that's a major part of Hollywood and everything. But that film was the best film I ever made, and oops, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that. But I mean, just as like I'm just a girl who's, in a car, having a relationship with my boyfriend. So just as, just simple, without any fantasy in it. And technically, I would say that I should have stopped acting right then. Right when it ended, I should have just got a really good husband, and I should have, because I was the belle of the ball, and I should have capitalized. But that wasn't really my path. My path, I think, was just as like an actress, going from job to job to job. And I always believed with every film I did that I was shooting for an Oscar or some kind of integrity or some kind of this or that. I started that company, and at the same time that was the most beautiful experience I ever had, it was the most horrible private experience I ever had in my life. The chaos that being in a movie brings so much chaos into your life if you're a starlet, because you don't really understand what just happened. You know what I mean? You make a little movie, but then there's a million, like say Arnold Schwarzenegger says, "I'll be back." And then it goes wah, 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 wah through the world. So people in Portugal and Spain or whoever, and wherever, like that whole sentence just goes all around the world. And I would say, like, in a weird way, like once you get there, I don't want to be like, I am that person who would actually tell you the truth and say, like, stay home and be involved in community and don't do a bunch of stuff. But if you're just like a girl who's a young girl who's just acting, if you don't have your family around you and you don't have a well support system, like you see, like say Beyonce does with her mother, or you see, what's that little kid, Bruno Mars, like when you see him at 5 years old, really he's such a talent, and that it's really being cultivated. If you go and build your dreams and stuff like that in Hollywood, you better get yourself one hell of a lot of protection around you, because that was like the greatest thing and the worst thing that ever happened to me, because all of a sudden I had maybe about 25 guys who were sure they were my husband. And they were fighting in my front lawn. And I never met them, you know? So the thing is, they were coming through the windows. They were coming through that. I walk into my house and there's 25 dozen roses in my house. And they're like, well, how did he get in? And I'm like, well, I wanted, you know, I had my number in the phone book. Well, you can't put your money in your name in the phone book. You know what I mean? Like, people find out about you, or like, but not now when I'm 60. But when I was like 20 years old, you know, I just feel, I don't know, maybe now that, you know, we remember in the 80s, stalkers became like the biggest thing in the world. It's okay, I'm walking to my car, he goes, you know, I want to talk to you. And I'm like, I don't know you, I just want to get to my car. And he goes, well, then quit calling me. And I was like, what? And he slams my head and boxes my ear, and I drop because he broke my eardrum. I never met the guy before. You know, I'm coming out of a bush, you know, I'm walking by something, somebody jumps out of a bush, and they grab my hair and they want a piece of my hair. It's just like, man, get yourself a family. Like, my mother had no idea. And the thing is I can't go home and tell my family, help, because they're like, it's your fault. And it's just like, it's not a girl's fault, man. It's tough out there. I'm sorry to be emotional about it, but Jesus Christ. You know, I feel for some of these kids who just think like, oh, this will be the answer. And it's just like, I can guarantee it, man, it's not the answer, because I thought it was going to be the answer, too. It's not the answer. It's just not the answer. I'm sorry to cry, but
Thank you for sharing that.
I'm sorry. You know, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
What's your fondest memory of Wes Craven?
I'll tell you, just let me get out of my crying, let me dance. When Ira Hayden called me and said Wes had died, I was sitting on my bed. And I thought, that's Wes Craven in heaven. While like giving me a notice that he's his goodbye, because I was sitting on a bed. And that was really, and I do think that all acting is spiritual. And so I thought Wes was going, good job, girl, and ciao.
Seriously, you know, us dream warriors, I know you all hear all the time about people saying about this cast and stuff, but we really care about each other. We really care about each other. Now, the question was,
What it was like
Wes
working with
Craven.
Wes.
Yeah.
I only met Wes Craven one time at a party outside of Nightmare on Elm Street. And when I went to introduce myself, he said, I know who you are.
Of course he does.
And he was a very nice man. I thank him for what he did, for not just for me, but what he did for the people of color in this film. I don't think he knew what he was doing because I didn't know what I was doing, but I will forever be grateful for him. And he was a gentle man, and a man that I appreciated that I was allowed to walk down the path that he had ridden.
All right. We'll do one last question and then we gotta wrap it up. Go ahead, Jay.
So since both of you are writers and the two of you not only play well opposite each other on film, but in person as well, how come neither one of you have written a sitcom for the two of you to play opposite each other?
If only it was that easy.
Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
Let's make it happen. One more question. That gentleman there, he had been raising his hand.
Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't see you.
Can you talk a bit about when you were on What's Happening Now? I remember watching you on that show. And
That gentleman was not asking a question.
That's not the right question.
About what happened, what do you mean, what about it?
so what's that related to coming off of Elm Street
It was Elm Street that got me that job. It was Elm Street that got me that job. I remember when I went in for the casting of that job. Nightmare on Elm Street was in its third week, #1. And Martin Lawrence had just got off of Star Search. And the role that they was looking for, Martin Lawrence fit the role. I did not fit it. So they had narrowed it down between the two of us. And so they couldn't make a choice. So they hired Martin and they wrote me in. And Martin was from DC. He didn't know anyone out here. So Martin, when he moved out here, we was roommates actually in real life. So we would actually leave the set and go home. He was my buddy. We still buddy. We don't see each other again, like I do so many of them. But there was one thing that I always like to share about Martin Lawrence, based off what you were saying, is that I haven't seen Martin since the passing of Tommy Ford. But when I was living together, and no matter even when we got in arguments because our views was different. We sounded like the Waltons every night. You know, he would say, "Love you, shorty." And I would say, "Love you too, motherfucker." So, but that was it, because we was friends. And so to this day, I don't see him, but when we see each other again, I believe in friendship, I believe in love, I believe in all of those things. And so, and I like to show those things. People that I don't like, I simply don't be around. I don't care what it is. And there are plenty. But okay, I will go on. So it's best you end this right now.
All right, yeah, all right. It is time for us, you guys. We're gonna get them back to their table.